Thursday, September 27th, September 27th at 6 o'clock p.m. will now, at Frederick Douglass High School, will now come to order.
Thank you, Mr. President and officers. We're here tonight to provide you with a comprehensive update on the state of Detroit Public Schools. That leads me to the discussion of my involvement with the EAA. I have to tell you that I saw my involvement in the EAA as a way to protect Detroit Public Schools.
Yeah.
When the state first approached me with a list of 34 schools that were qualified to be transferred to the EAA because of their long-standing poor performance, I decided that the EAA as a district in its infancy did not have the capacity to take on that many schools. Because of my position as emergency manager at the time, I was able to mandate that 15 schools was the appropriate number to be transferred to EAA, not 27, not 34. I was also able to mandate that 7 schools be removed from the transfer list entirely and have them remain in the Detroit system to work their one-year turnaround plan. Had I not been emergency manager, I would not have been able to control this process so singularly, and all 27 schools could have gone to the EAA. Also, as it relates to the EAA, I was in fact pleased to be able to work with a talented group of individuals to set policies and procedures for this news district that I believe is a solid model for educating kids, which is really what I think it should be all about. Educating every child in the city of Detroit. I could have chartered every one of those schools and never looked back. I didn't see that as the best option. I saw this as a much better option. When I came to this job also, there were 25 schools scheduled to become charters. I made a decision, we're not going to do that. We took 5.
About DPS.
I think this was the right way to go. It seems that there's been a lot of misinformation put out recently. And I think it's important to note that while the schools and their student population were transferred to the EAA, the actual school buildings remain owned by Detroit Public Schools. Also important is the fact that EAA had paid DPS for the resources that have been expended to help it get its doors open this school year. You should also know that I don't view competition with the EAA or any other district or charter school as a bad thing. In fact, I think it's a healthy thing. No one should have a monopoly on the education of our children. We should all be competing with each other to provide the best education possible. I believe that with all my heart and soul.
Members have questions. Member Summers.
I can't read the lyrics.
Talking to the mic.
It was my understanding that the EAA schools were not to be in competition with DPS. I heard advertisements on the radio of EAA schools recruiting students. So to me, that was in direct competition with DPS. And I'm not sure, but I believe that was a violation.
I think that we followed every rule, every regulation, and every law in front of us, everything in front of us. I would tell you that I've had some of the best legal minds you might think of as we walk through this process, because I knew we'd come to this day in some other days. I think that I don't think we have done exactly the right thing in moving those schools to EAA, and as we go forward, this coming year, by the way, there's some other schools they want from us, and I am the only person in the state of Michigan that have the authority that says you can't have any of them, or you can have 1, or you can have 2, under the law.
To Mr. Roberts, through the chair, I would like to piggyback on what Member Summers said, because I have heard many, many commercials regarding EAA. And in these commercials, they are competing with DPS for students. And it was my understanding that the purpose of the EAA was to address the lowest performing 5% of the schools.
Right.
But when I hear commercials saying you don't have to go to DPS, or why go to DPS, come on over to EAA, to me, this is misleading the public. why would
illegal.
you recruit, why would one, excuse me, not you, why would one recruit students into the lowest performing 5% of school? And I want to make clear for the audience and for the records that before the state took over the school, everything that you said in terms of the low performance of schools and how we were failing the schools, this was done under the state control. So I would like to I believe it's 11 years that the state has had control of DPS schools. So if you had a child who went to kindergarten who is now in 11th grade, the state is responsible for this low performance in our schools. And I just want to make that clear for the record, because prior to DPS, prior to the state taking over, let it be clear that we were not in a financial deficit.
That's right.
For the record, please understand that the state did this, and not DPS. The state miseducated our children, not DPS. So let's make that clear when we talk about bringing someone in to help correct the problem. That's good, that's fine, but make it clear who created the problem that you are sent in here to correct. Thank you.
Mr. President,
Excellent.
I would hope that people would see fit not to hold me accountable for 25 years of history. I'm not going to hold you accountable for 2 years of history. When I paid $1 million this year for things that school boards did that preceded you, I'm not going to blame you for that. Somebody else did that once upon a time. I paid $500,000 for a president doing something that was totally inappropriate.
Okay, that's not responsive to the Member Davis. Vice President Davis, I'm sorry, Vice President Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Roberts, I think what we believe is that we need an apology from you, because there's not been 100 years of mistakes in this district. I served on this board before, and I know we were achieving during the Jefferson administration. And I know up until 2000, we had 162,000 kids in this district that were progressing very well.
Right.
So I think we need to apologize. You made some mistakes. And I think that I can show you proof.
Well, I would simply say to the president, it's obvious to me you need to call the governors of other people down here and talk to them, because I can't account for them, and I'm not responsible for them. I thank you, I share. Thank you. It's good to be with you.
He told the story for 100 years, and now someone's calling him down. He is so mean. That's rude.
Mr. Order, would you please?
He is mean. Cocky. Cocky. That's unacceptable. That is terrible. Lord Jesus, help me. He ran. He ran away. Let me go.
Mr. Roberts, after Mr. Aldridge makes his presentation, there's still some questions for you. Are you willing to entertain such?
Don't run.
Come on, you got time, ain't time.
Well, then, in that case, can you come to the meeting in October on the 25th? Mr. Roberts, are you willing to come to the meeting on October 25th?
That is a shame.
Deal with issues that I can't do what the state did.
Well, don't talk about the 100 years. He bought that up.
Member Redmond.
He bought it over 100 years.
We can't hear you.
We seldom have an opportunity to meet with Mr. Roberts. Can't we that others' presentation wait till the 25th? Because in every school board meeting, there are peers, teachers, and officers who come and vent to us, which is no problem. But we are not the ones who can address their problem. So since we seldom have this opportunity with Mr. Roy Roberts, can't we postpone the other presentation and let us address and let the audience address?
Mr. Roberts, because of the time constraints, we'll entertain Mr. Aldridge's presentation at another meeting, and we would like to continue asking you questions so that fits in within your time constraints.
Sit down, bro.
That is what happens when you have a dictatorship over you. We need to vote no on proposal 2 as if our life depends on it. Proposal 1. That's what happens when you got a dictator. That's dictatorship. And that right there is the servant of the dictator.
Can you call to order? I understand everyone's, your frustration. Believe me, I feel it even more. What is the board's pleasure? Do we wish to hear Mr. Aldridge's presentation?
No.